How you doing?
Very good, very good. Excited about today.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
DeFi 2.0, let's talk about it.
Yeah, we got a very special guest today as well in the audience. Or in the stage with us. Let me put it that way. Hey Dev, how you doing?
Phenomenal each and every day. How about all of you?
Doing
That
very
is
well.
that
Thank you
is
so much.
yeah, that is literally the best way to answer that question. There is no better way, I think.
Every day, each and every day.
Yeah.
That's what we strive for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get out of bed without that attitude. Well, I'm really excited to have this conversation today. Project ideas. I mean, this is exciting. Theorizing and talking about ideas is one of my favorite things to do about our network. So excited to have this conversation with you guys.
For sure. I share the same passion here.
Still waiting for a few people to come in, which is great. Seeing some familiar faces from our team meet and greet, which is great. Dennis, nice to see you. Anka as well. Who else do I recognize? A couple of Oasis Apes in here, which is great to see. There we go. We're getting a few more people coming in now. This is going to be a good topic. This DeFi 2.0 and DeFi 1.0. What's the difference between these two? This is going to be exciting.
For sure.
Did anyone participate in DeFi 1.0? I was pretty deep in DeFi 1.0.
Yeah, I definitely did. Yeah.
What's the line between DeFi 1.0 and 2.0?
I know, right? Like, what really is the line? Where do we draw it, and how do we categorize it?
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, I was always thinking like it's like a DeFi protocol that builds on top of another ones. That's like 2.0. What do you, how would you guys define that actually?
Is a DEX a DeFi 1.0 or a DeFi 2.0?
Like I would guess the Dex would be like 1.0. I don't
would
know.
still consider that 1.0 because
Yeah.
Dexes were early. Dexes were early. Liquidity pools were early. Some of the early vegetables, which will not be named, were early. I think DeFi 2.0 started really changing with unlocking TVL, you know, releasing the staked assets.
Yeah, it's like if you have like a yield aggregator that builds on top of a DEX and like auto compounds the returns or something like that. That
Yeah.
would be like 2.0 for me.
Yeah, that's kind of where I draw the line. I mean, obviously, we're going to talk about this and have some input from our community, but yeah, adding complex things using smart contracts or using blockchain that are not just your typical collateralized loans or simple things where decentralized lending, like little things like this. Like that's why I mentioned unlocking TVL, because it was like things that make you wonder, is that possible? Like, is that legal? Is that is that something that's right? Like things that push the envelope where you wonder how this is working, this social experiment of finance. That's kind of where I look at this. But then DeFi 2.0 for us is the addition and the evolution of adding privacy to the DeFi space.
Privacy, security, and portability.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, wait, Dev, is that for you like the DeFi 2.0?
Yeah, and I talked about this a little bit where DeFi 2.0 is for me where when we do mass adoption, right? DeFi 1.0 is kind of the Wild West. It's less about what can you accomplish for me and more about what are the regulations around it, what are the securities around it, what are the convenience factor around it, and I think DeFi 1.0 was really a lot of applications or a lot of financial instruments that were only available to insiders. And with 2.0, we have like mass market adoption, we have accessibility, we have more privacy centric options, we have more security focused options where your funds are actually secured through, you could have insurance schemes, you could have cross protocol diversification, a number of these like various avenues of privacy, security, and portability.
I think that's a fantastic point to make is that mass adoption and taking it to the regulatory space where it solves real issues and it turns it into something that everybody can participate because, as Dev said, DeFi 1.0 was largely who did you know? Were you in early? When did you get in, and how long would this project last? It was not about sustainability. It was not about real disruptive longevity within the ecosystem. It was just about hit it and quit it, flash in the pan. Where's the next hype? DeFi 1.0 was a real social experiment, and I think Dev, you said it really well with portability, mass adoption, getting it to market, and having real change. Disruptive financial tools that stick around and add accessibility to everybody.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, are are we good to start? I mean, I'm sure like, the audience has heard, John, us two talk a lot, but I don't know, like, should we do a bit of intro here so that
Oh
everybody
yeah,
knows who's on
absolutely.
stage?
Absolutely. That
Awesome.
was a nice warm up into
Yeah.
what we're going to be talking about. So, yeah, thank you, everybody. I'll start us off. We'll do some intros. I'm John Poole, community lead at Oasis. Everybody kind of knows who I am in this group. We had a great first intro. We've got a really special guest today from Jump Capital. Dev, if you want to introduce yourself, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the developer advocate for Wormhole and then kind of for the wider Jump crew. Um, yeah, I kind of work with external projects. I kind of do the outreach for Jump. I have a long history in decentralized identity and crypto. I've been in crypto for a long, long time. And then the fun fact I always tell everybody, because everybody asks me, why Spaceman Dev? I got my roots early on. If you're a college student in the United States, you might have seen me at one of these hackathons dressed up in a spacesuit teaching Solidity back in 2014, 2015, right when it came out. So that's kind of my history in the space. And yeah, happy to be here.
It's really cool. So we've got a Solidity pioneer here with us today.
That's really exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. Thank you so much for joining us. And then we have Ekin, our fantastic BD lead at Oasis. Thank you so much for being with us again today.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. It's so exciting. This is one of the more exciting conversations I feel.
Yes. And it's designed to be informal, so we'll just lay some ground rules for our speakers here today. No, nothing too formal. Let's have a nice conversation, keep it casual, and just encourage the audience to participate. And with that being said, I mean, we've got a request already from Gani. Do we want to outline our talking points and then kind of have some interaction?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Sounds good. All right. So today's talking points, we're going to talk about the current DeFi trends on Emerald. This is important. Obviously, it's the Oasis network. We want to talk about our network. We're going to talk about Fountain Protocol, Rosart, UzuSwap. Then we're going to get into the differences between DeFi 2.0 and 1.0. We just alluded to this, had a little bit of a conversation around this and got warmed up around this. We're going to have tips on how to spot a good project. We're going to give our views on the future of DeFi, which can slip in at any time. And we'll talk about the innovative trends when it comes to DeFi. Where do we think it's going? What would be considered innovative? What are some red flags in innovation to avoid, like Ponzi's and different things like that are just, they seem like great ideas. You might win hackathons, but they're not good ideas in the long term if they have the word Ponzi in it. So some innovative trends to maybe go for, red, green flags. And then we're always going to ask the participants for ideas for the hackathon projects. I mean, we're not asking for hackathon teams to give away your secrets or your IP. But if you're, in the audience and you'd like to see something that you have no skin in the game, please, by all means, let us know your idea for some of the hackathon projects. All right. Should I bring Johnny down? Should we do this? Should we make this interactive right out of the gate?
Sounds good.
Okay, Connie, come on down stage. Onto stage. Let's get this going. Let's have some fun. Welcome.
Hey, Gani, how you doing?
So sorry, Yanni, I cannot understand you, or I also can't hear you very well. Okay. It's not going to work out. But okay, let's just move forward. Current DeFi trends on Emerald, including but not limited to lending and borrowing. Anyone want to talk about this? This is a big deal. I mean, Fountain Protocol is our first lending protocol coming out. It's a big deal. Under collateralized loans will be the future, but for now, I mean, just getting lending on our platform is huge.
Yeah, we got a couple of the strong ones. I mean, Fountain Protocol seems to have a good traction going on there. Got WePiggy also on the lending. We have a number of exits as well. It's interesting to see like how the TVL grows on those.
Absolutely.
I think we're closing on 5 dexes already.
That's great. I love the options because the more dexes on the ecosystem, the more opportunities for individuals to have freedom within the ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think like one of the more exciting projects is Rosart, the NFT marketplace coming out. So really excited to see what they're doing. There's somebody with the Drift Souls icon already here on the audience. So
oh, nice.
Yeah.
They know. Yeah, Rosart's going to be a big deal. I mean, people are itching to mint on our network. This is what they want to do.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen a lot of on Emerald more cross-chain coins coming on as part of dexes as well, or is that still something that like maybe the hackathon participants can run with and kind of work on building? So these are coins that are coming in from other networks using bridges like Wormhole.
Yeah, for sure. There's been, I mean, like great traction with the bridges we have. I mean, I think Wormhole is clearly the leading one on those. I mean, yeah. I mean, the trading volumes, I think, also are our biggest ones on, like, let's say, USDC, USDT counter pairs. So, that's been, like, overall, I mean, it's somehow like a requirement for our ecosystem to have that kind of a stable coin to be able to put the value somewhere in a more stable storage. I think we've seen a lot of traction on our end with that.
Kind of an open question to the audience. Is anybody here working on building on an Emerald DeFi app using cross-chain coins? And if so, like, maybe come up and talk about your idea.
That would be fantastic.
Do we have any questions in the audience?
Yeah, let's just start there. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, any of the topics that we've discussed here, or do you really just want to listen to us talk?
Seeing no question, yeah. One of the other things I wanted to talk about was like the thing that gets me excited about Oasis, which was your guys' like this concept of privatized smart contracts and how they're going to affect DeFi going forward. Maybe we could dive into that a little bit. I would love to learn a little bit about how you guys are planning on working on that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like the cool thing, when you said the privatized smart contracts, like to be able to store that kind of like private information, like private keys, for example, And it was nice, and like before we got on the stage, we had this all really cool like conversation about the storing the private keys and how does it enable the DIDs. I'll let you talk more about that, but I think like overall, like like seeing, just imagining like some things are not possible unless you have private data, and then also like when you have public data, it can be really valuable because that's the kind of the nature of the data. So if you expose your banking transaction records, any aggregator can use them and sell them, so it kind of becomes worthless, or very cheap, at least in the minimum. So I mean, this year we have like really exciting stuff coming out with the privacy and the confidentiality in the smart contracts. So, I think we're gonna see something really cool on this front, probably like this quarter even already. John, do you
I'm
have
really
anything
excited. I'm really
Yeah.
excited. I mean, the theories behind this are huge. It unlocks an entire industry that has really only been speculated. And DeFi 1.0, everybody that didn't believe in DeFi was basically using these reasons as the negative reality of why DeFi would never be mass adopted. Public information, no under collateralization, just all these issues that when you add privacy, as the traditional finance world requires, in much respects, privacy is. I mean, you just can't have the data flow be exposed when you're dealing with financial systems, with markets, with banks, with all this information, and there's a lot of it needs to have privacy. So adding that to the blockchain ecosystem, unlocking this untapped potential, this landscape of what we believe to be DeFi 2.0, taking it to the masses, this is really exciting. And talk just like many other features in our network, but this is in respects to DeFi. Privacy adds so much to so many different industries, but when it comes to finances, it's pretty important because you can just ask yourself a basic question. Would you be willing to put your financial records on a public blockchain? The answer is no. Anybody here that says yes, I'm willing to bet that you wouldn't do that and follow through with it. It's just nobody's going to do that. Put your personal information that you use to get a credit card or to get a loan on a public blockchain. It's not going to happen. And you can consider options for centralization to take your data and information off chain. Now we're using centralized band-aids, and that's the issues that we had in 2018 with all the scalability and using centralized off-chain compute ecosystems, and like that's not the solution for DeFi. DeFi is supposed to be about decentralization. It's about trustless ecosystems, and when it comes to finance, adding privacy is the missing piece for you to even have that in one sentence. So I'm really excited about this. I mean, let's get deeper into that. Where are we going with adding privacy into DeFi, and what does it unlock?
Yeah, and I mean, I remember like in before this we got on the stage, Dev, you mentioned like some really informative stuff about those decentralized identities, and like when you put your private key in a smart contract, how does that really actually make it possible to do that decentralized identity? Like that was really informative.
Yeah, and like I know that we're talking about DeFi right now, but like even beyond DeFi, the two things that like really excite me about this concept of privatized data on blockchain is one, um, for when we talk about privacy, we say that blockchains will help make things more private, and we'll go from this concept of, oh, companies make money off of our data to users making money off of our data, but that doesn't actually happen. What's really happening on a public blockchain is that you're giving your data available to all the competitors in the marketplace rather than one competitor. So instead of one company making money off your data, many companies can make money off your data because it's all public data. Every transaction you make can be de-anonymized. Every time you do anything, all of that data is public. So,
Yeah.
and especially when we talk about DeFi and banking, like all of that data on a public blockchain is available to everybody, which is not very private at all.
Yeah, and it goes one level further than that. When you think about Auth3 and what they're using Parcel with on-chain and off-chain public and private data, I mean, you as an individual can stake it and participate in this, but this is an example of a third party using information that's out there to monetize it. Only difference is they're getting our permission using Embuddy and Parcel, which is a nice link between that fairness and that open data economy, which is, I think, important. Without that, they're just taking it from you. And if you consider that any of your public chain data, they don't have to ask your permission. It's Auth3 using your private data through Twitter and all that. That's why we had to ask permission. But if it's public, there's companies out there that are doing this without your knowledge right now. They're scraping your public blockchain information and aggregating it and running data sets on it in data queries.
Yeah. And then it gets kind of scary when you see this stuff, you know, with TRM analytics and so on. Like they use this for good, hopefully, but there's plenty of bad actors out there that are not using it for good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it can get deep, like with NFTs and all the metadata that everybody's linking to them. Like I saw something the other day on one of the apps said I could link my OpenSea to my Ledger Live. If I did that, it would expose potentially my IP address. And I was like, and it said it would be on the blockchain, which means that's there. It's there forever. So that was a little bit frightening.
Yeah, and that's a good segue into one of the other things that I want to talk about, which is the difference between public and private identity, right? And so when you do these kinds of linking, when you're out there and you are connecting all of these different services to your address, you're basically creating a honeypot. You're saying this address, if you can hack it, whatever way you hack it, you are now going to get access not only to all of my crypto, but all of the roles that I have access to, all of the permissions that I have access to through this public identity. And that's because the ENS-based identity, or the Ethereum name service, which is very popular in the Ethereum ecosystem, that's a public identity ecosystem. Conversely to that, one of the other types of identities that crypto people have been working on, that I worked on for a number of years, is private identity, things that are credential-based identity. And that's not really possible without a signing layer for a smart the basic primitive that you need across any blockchain is, can a smart contract sign a piece of data? And that's not been possible until Oasis. So that's something that I'm very excited about when I saw you guys were working on that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that as well. And some of the advancements that I talk about that it will unlock is immutable digital property ownership secured on the blockchain for government identifications. Like think about how many social security numbers, think about how many passports and things get stolen and sold, fake IDs to get liquor, all these different things. Government issue identification secured on the blockchain, which is immutable, non-transferable. Like this is the keystone of that concept, is non-transferable, immutable property ownership secured on the blockchain. I think that's coming, and it's really exciting if you think about that. Being able to have a driver's license that I don't have to worry about losing or being stolen, and that I can, sign or use as identity through a verification process that's secured on the blockchain using privacy. I mean, this is fantastic.
Yeah, and actually kind of like in tangent with like the identification system is like there's some really cool use cases. If you think about like a civic registry system of where like the government registers if you're married, if you have kids, who's your parents, and so on and so forth. Like to be able to put all that data in this kind of a immutable record, keep it private, because it also allows to kind of control who gets access to it. So if you have all these like huge data leaks that are happening because some government employee misses forgets their password somewhere, somebody gets access to it. But like having these kind of ways to control who gets the access to the data, so that person can get only access to one very small part of it, like it allows to generate much more robust systems that overall like reduce the data security risk for everybody eventually. And then
Absolutely.
Building on top of that all these like ID systems.
Yeah, and let's not forget revoking access after they've used it, right? Like I don't even want to know how many people have my passport because of exchange KYC.
Yeah.
I don't even want to know. Don't. But when we can solve this solution later on our ecosystem where it's revocable, or along those lines where they can use it for verification but they don't get a copy of it, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I saw a few people wanting to speak actually.
I invited Nick. Yawning didn't want to come down, which is totally. We have some very important developers in our audience, which we very much appreciate. Yawning and Nick Hines, both are here. They're core team developers. If they want to come down and say hello, that would be fantastic. If not, I'm not going to put them on the spot. But it's fantastic to see them here, so thank you so much. Not to kill the conversation.
Yeah.
Awkward focus on our developers.
Yeah, not to put anybody on the spot, right?
Yeah.
Wait, but there was one interesting question, like, because there was a thing about, like, how do you spot a good project? It's something I really want to hear, your guys' thoughts on.
So I think the inverse of that is how to spot a bad project. So as a judge for many hackathons and like looking through hackathon submissions, I think any project that is trying to launch a token day one is not necessarily a project that I get excited by. And a lot of that has to do with you have to prove value. Like tokens generally are network effect tools. And so generally what you want to do is you want to provide value from your project before you launch a token. For example, the token can be a governance token, but who wants to govern your project if your project doesn't provide value? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes great sense. And for me, as on the community side, community involvement, community planning, community integration and support is essential, especially in a decentralized project. You don't have the centralized support of one entity being like, hey, take 2-3 years, build this, no problem. Nobody's going to be, bothering you. In a DeFi ecosystem, you have to be fully ready from day zero, day one. This is our intent. We are being open, transparent. This is our roadmap. This is what the community needs to understand about us to avoid, that FUD, that lack of reputable confidence. It's essential in a DeFi project, or that's what we're talking about here, good DeFi projects, to be open and honest about what your intentions are, where the tokens are going, what your roadmap is, what's in the future for this project, and who your team is. There's a lot that went into DeFi 1.0 where teams wanted to be anonymous. They wanted to be completely undoxed. They wanted to, and it turned out to be a terrible experience for a lot of people, including myself. Kids that, had no right building what they built, but at the same time, who are we to judge because we participated? And, that domino effect of unverified code bases and things where, rug pulls left and right, it was just such an eye-opener. So how to spot a bad project? Don't go into it blind. Look at what you're doing. Who's built this code? Was it verified? How many people are on this team? What's their Twitter handles? Do they expose themselves as someone trustworthy? Or is it someone in someone's basement, completely hidden? You have no idea what's going on, and they told their 12 friends, get ready, 12 o'clock tomorrow, and then you lose all your funds. Not that happened to me several times.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
You got to learn. You got to participate, and that's part of this. Is like this social experiment about what works, what doesn't work, and so we're here to give you good tips on what to avoid. Those are some things to avoid. I'll be very honest with you. If you get that feeling of like I gotta get in before everybody else, and you're just watching your computer every single day to see when the price starts going down for you to get out, these are some pretty big red flag indicators that you're involved in something that's not really looking long term or sustainability or a healthy roadmap. Like this should be something with confidence, like it should be your own research, but that's one thing for the community side. A deep involvement with the community, proper hiring of moderators and managers, access to the team without dark periods of them making people feel like there's nobody supporting the ecosystem or the community itself. These are, and for the people here planning a project, take it from some of the projects having great success right now in the market. They are community driven projects, community first. They listen, they care, they make changes based on the community and the way that the project's evolving. They're fluid, not very, we're going to do this and they're going to figure it out. It's like, you have to listen to your community, and I think that's really important on how to spot a good project is someone that really cares about the user experience and what people are going through.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight also like aside of the wonderful other points, like just like the go-to market. So, how does the when you look at the white paper, like if you're an investor, like how does it actually make money? Like how does the token appreciate in value? Or if it's not even like a token appreciating, if that's not the business model, like how does the network like effect grow such that it gets, millions of users? Like just the kind of the business side of it as well. It's many times I've noticed it's not as highlighted. You have these very high level pitch decks that are just like, saying the vision, saying, these are the cool things, but it doesn't really like it doesn't make sense because the other parts of like how do you actually make it profitable, it's not there.
One other thing I'll add to all that is I think one promise of blockchains is composability and being able to build upon other projects. So kind of a interesting, like if you are someone in a hackathon and you're thinking about building something, build on top of an existing project and you can leverage their user base, right? That's one of the really cool aspects of blockchains is that we can do permissionless composable projects. So whenever I see a project that's building on top of another project like that gets me excited.
Yeah, that's actually such a good point.
A fantastic point.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all these like cool like interoperability protocols coming up nowadays as well. So, you know, we've had some talk about that as well, I guess, within our paradigm, so can't really wait to see what'll be the end result there.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
So
You
kind
were
of a
noting.
question about Oasis. How do you can your paratimes talk to each other? Is it like a Cosmos model with IBC or like what is the mechanism for getting data between different paratimes?
Yeah, we have cross paradigm communication, and that's one of the things coming out in our latest update. Actually, I believe in like 3 days, that 2 days that will be unlocked. So cross paradigm communication is a huge feature about our layer one blockchain. It will allow for all the features to be shared across paradigms. I mean, essentially, you don't have the redundancy of having to build the same module features that other paradigms have already built.
Yeah, and like what's really cool is like if you have, let's say, one environment, like one paradigm that has these privacy features enabled, just to have that composability where, you can have an existing application on Emerald, normal EVM code, then to just like call the other paradigm and use the privacy features from there. Like then you don't have to migrate all the liquidity from from the protocol or whatever is needed there, to just access that one specific set of features, which is really cool.
And Dev, when you mention IBC, like that's not off the roadmap either. We're going to have that because we share similar code bases where we modified the Tendermint code base. But I mean, IBC is on our roadmap as well, and we want to tap into that ecosystem. So when you pair that with our cross paradigm communication, our ecosystem, the robust capabilities of it are incredible.
Wow, that's really awesome.
Thank you. It's exciting. It actually is really exciting to think that we could not only blend that ecosystem with ours and much more. Wormhole, Seabridge, I mean, there's so much going on for our developers to have access. And when you consider what we're providing, like we talk about the Lego system, putting the green base plate down, having the SDKs being these Lego toolboxes. I mean, talk about these bridges and the communication between ecosystems. That's just another level to what's available to the developers.
Yeah, and that really like shines a light on what we consider, or like at least what I consider DeFi 2.0 is DeFi 2.0 should not be or should be chain agnostic. It shouldn't be tied down to a chain. You should be able to build an application on one chain, but like allow for deposits on another chain, or take your liquidity and actually trade it on a different chain, or do any of these things using whether that's paradigm communication, whether that's IBC, whether that's Wormhole, any of these bridges, any of these cross-chain applications. That kind of stuff gets really that to me is a very solid DeFi 2.0 trend is cross-chain applications.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you consider this, I mean, why shouldn't I be able to move one of my NFTs into a different ecosystem and take a loan against it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we got a question from the community, which is fantastic. Okay, here we go. Can you give us any resources regarding the change and definition of DeFi 2.0? What would be the difference between Oasis and other ecosystems in DeFi 2.0 terms? Great question. I would say the difference between Oasis and other ecosystems in DeFi 2.0 terms is the addition of privacy. I mean, other people might try and build modules or subset, like they might try to build layer twos or something to try and capture at the addition of privacy in a very creative way. But this is not the same as having privacy built at the core of your ecosystem. And so therefore, what we enable in a well-rounded ecosystem is just not the same as other ecosystems trying to throw band-aids on what they've built. So that's one major difference, and not to mention the enterprise integration, the reputability of our network. Like, we are the solution that people look to for privacy. So when it comes to traditional enterprise businesses looking to tap in to DeFi so that they don't lose out on this massive wave in this changing financial world, we will be that blockchain that people look to, which is fantastic, and we're proud of that, and we welcome that. If anything, it's exciting for everyone. But that's one of the biggest changes to me for DeFi 2.0, the Oasis against other ecosystems, is our addition of privacy. As far as resources, let me check our blog. Have any resources, Ekin?
Yeah, I'm thinking because they're saying like resources regarding to the DeFi 2.0 in Oasis.
You know what's fantastic? We
Uh-huh.
released 3. No, this is old. Okay. So we have some stuff on DeFi 2.0 that we ourselves published. So that's nice. What is DeFi 2.0 and why build on Oasis? This is fantastic. This fits right in. Yeah. And it was released on March 21st, so pretty relevant. It's 4-hour hackathon. So thank you for whoever asked that question.
Okay, that's a good one.
I feel like they were spoon feeding me this, which I appreciate. So it's on our blog. I'm going to put it in the general chat. Thank you. Put this in general. It's on our Medium. It's about what is DeFi 2.0 and why you should build on Oasis, which is pretty straightforward. I think that gets right to the point.
I have a selfish question.
Please.
Are there any games on Oasis right now?
Can you talk about those? I know we have some in our pipeline. I don't know if
Wait,
we can.
Wait, sorry, what
Yes,
was the
if there's
question?
Are there any games on Oasis?
Yeah, we do. We do indeed have actually a few. So, okay, I can talk about one. Because the other ones, we haven't announced yet, so I don't want to jump the gun on anything. We do have Rune Guard on the one of the accelerators we're running with this organization called MetaMinds Labs. So this Rune Guard is okay. So I'm a big Magic the Gathering fan. So essentially, they're a card game that has like NFTs. Like a card dueling or battling game. So you collect the cards. You're able to also walk with your little avatar, like it's like in Gather Town or somewhere, and it's a kind of a big world. So you go there, you collect stuff, you battle with different cards. Yes, I'm really excited about that. It's a team we've been working with for a couple months already, and they're gonna go out with their demo this month. So we're gonna have something really cool to demonstrate on that. And I guess just on the let's say higher level without giving any other names, we do have about 5 other ones integrating currently on various stages. But those are joining either the hackathons or they're in the second acceleration program we're running with DAP Radar. So since those are a bit earlier, it's you know we will for sure make a lot of noise about them when they're live and when they're working. Um, but yeah, that'll be a bit later. But we do have a few coming up, and yeah, RuneGuard is really exciting.
Vanguard is really exciting.
That's cool to hear. One of the things I talk about is that there are like two big trends in crypto right now, and that's DeFi and GameFi. DeFi is kind of a mathematician's, and a trader and a financier's dream in terms of crypto. And then for people like me, like who are not traders, one of the things that I get excited about are things like on-chain games and so on. And so I love to ask blockchains, like, what are you guys doing to incentivize that? What are you doing to build on that? Because I think those things will tie together to build these kind of in-game economies and stuff that are bigger GameFi and DeFi institutions. So it's exciting to hear that you guys are working on some of that.
Yeah,
Well, I think
sure. Oh, sorry, John.
Sorry, go ahead. No, I was just gonna segue because like this is really nice the way that talking about GameFi, it's enabled by DeFi 2.0. If we look at like you go from TradeFi, which is traditional finance, and I'm taking this out of this Medium post. I realized this is such an awesome Medium post. It actually outlines everything that we're talking about. So it goes TradeFi, traditional finance, then it goes DeFi 1.0, and then it goes DeFi 2.0. And I don't think that we could have GameFi without DeFi 2.0 because of benefits that we receive in DeFi 2.0. And when we talk about the differences, let's just summarize some of this because there's a beautiful graph right on this Medium article that talks about one column DeFi 1.0 and then the other is DeFi 2.0. So going down this, like the user experience, I think we can all agree DeFi 1.0 experience is terrible. The gas fees are astronomical. The fight to get out, the Ponzi schemes, the rug pulls, it was a bad experience. DeFi 2.0, obviously we're aiming to change that. It's supposed to be a good experience. The scalability, most platforms, DeFi 1.0, Ethereum, not scalable. And we know this. The fees, the more race to the jackpot or honey pot, the race to get rewards created lack of scalability, higher gas fees, bigger race to get out. I can't even tell. I paid over $1,000 once for a transaction in DeFi 1.0 just to save money because things were free falling so fast. And that's the Ethereum network. And I'm ashamed to say that, but I did it. And I saved myself a lot of money in that transaction. Never paid as much as that before for a single transaction to do nothing but move my money around. It's disgusting. But liquidity, huge. And this is just like what I'm saying, the liquidity pools in DeFi 1.0, it's mercenaries. It's people with money trying to make money and they pay to get their money out. But DeFi 2.0, these are protocol-owned liquidity pools. These are fair ecosystems where projects are putting their money out for their users to say, hey, this is a safe environment for you to participate. That's a huge differentiator when it came to what I was saying earlier, a kid in his basement trying to change the world with finance versus reputable, credible, financially backed ecosystem that's offering you a way to participate. And permanent loss, prone to market volatility, absolutely. And DeFi 2.0, there's a lot of mitigating solutions to this with the liquidity pools, the pairings, all these changes to avoid impermanent loss. Even the token metrics that are being designed into these DeFi 2.0 ecosystems or project stapps are so different than DeFi 1.0, and that's because it was a social experiment. So that's a huge upgrade. And then self-repaying loans, DeFi 1.0, insufficient capital, DeFi 2.0, deficiencies there, the unlocking of self-repaying loans, the ability for you to repay through staking mechanisms, like once again the social experiment of what didn't work in DeFi 1.0. Let's see what adding some solutions to these problems can do in DeFi 2.0. So again, we're evolving that social experiment. And then the last point, yield farming. This is huge, right? DeFi 1.0, yields remain low due to the static asset. You put your money in, you get rewards back, it's out. But I mentioned this earlier, unlocking TVL. This was a huge evolution in DeFi 2.0. There's these unique mechanisms for you to unlock tokens that are locked for you to make money off your money already making money. It's like the theories of this, when you explain it to other people, they're like, how's that possible? That doesn't seem right. But in DeFi 2.0, these are the mechanisms that we're using. And the reason it's possible is because the banks do this with your money right now. They don't just sit on your money when you put it in the bank. They relend it. It's exactly the same thing. So we're trying to take traditional earning mechanisms through yield farming and put them into DeFi 2.0. So that's the differences between DeFi 1.0 and 2.0. Let's just put a pin in that one.
Okay, I have a question. Kind of tying down the predatory, or like, let's say, migrating capital between DeFi protocols, and then all these gaming like GameFi stuff, because there's a lot of criticism of these games, or generally of blockchain gaming, that it's like, let's say you participate in a ICO where you kind of get this NFT or this game character. You get a few of them. They start, let's say it's an idle game. They battle constantly, produce some yield for you, and then you breed a few of them. And the game economics are kind of way that the prices go up, and then it starts to slowly like collapse. So it's kind of the same thing, that people buy in early to get that high return, but then they just exit the project once they've actually made their money, and they hold some extra assets now. What do you guys think about that?
Well, so I think that's also how games work. Like one of the problems with long-term game design in crypto is that that's not really a thing in traditional game markets. In traditional game markets, games have a seasonal length. Like games don't have a lifetime beyond 3 months to 7 years. Like the longest game that you're playing, came out 7 to 10 years ago, and there are very few exceptions to that. Things like RuneScape or World of Warcraft or EVE Online, sure. But like 98% of games that are out there, their lifespan is between 3 months to 7 years. So when we look at blockchain games, that's not going to be different. So that's actually a challenge in, what I talk about is that there's a difference between building blockchain games and then building games that use the blockchain. And a lot of people build games like that are using the blockchain in the hope that they're going to act like blockchain tech projects and last forever. And that's just not how games work. But what you gotta do is build seasonal games that are not dependent on a long-term economy, but that are dependent on short-term usage rather than long-term staking of those game assets. And it's just a different game design.
Exactly. So it's like not anymore like that you can buy an asset and become very wealthy in the game because you bought it and very successful, but it's like the usage indeed, and maybe some not pay to win kind of mechanics.
Yeah, I actually am not a big fan of the play to earn model. I don't think that's a big play to earn is a niche model, and I don't think most on-chain games are going to be play to earn. I think most blockchain games are going to be sustainable. Basically, you're going to get as much money out of them as you put into them, and they're just going to move the money around a little bit, and that's totally fine because the purpose of a game is not to make money. The purpose of the game is for you to get enjoyment out of it. And I think the uniqueness of what you get out of blockchain games, things like provably fair mechanics, serverless deployment, stuff like that, where you can play with global audiences for little to low latency. These are the kinds of things that you get out of blockchain games that we should be talking about, not necessarily the ability to earn massive yields on them.
One thing, Dev, that comes to mind is the bridge between this concept of in-game assets and the ability to potentially move those assets into future games built by the same developers. I think that might be one way of gamifying the situation where you've built such an ecosystem in one game, it's losing steam, it's losing popularity. You roll out a new game, and people that are still in tune with your ecosystem, supporting your project, supporting your game development, can move those valuable assets into the new ecosystem. So I think there might be something there with this whole asset management, these digital ecosystems, bridging them from one game to another. I'd like to think of a beautiful ecosystem where one game can harmonize or complement another.
Yeah, and this goes into composability as one of the foundations. Like one project can build upon another project. It could be a developer that rolls out a new game, or it could be a different developer, and you can build on top of older games that people have had a good time playing. So that definitely is a really cool composability mechanic in blockchains that I think people should use more in GameFi.
Yeah, and
It
like
adds.
like just also thinking like if it's an older game and you have some assets there, you know, this can actually trigger like usage to the older game because if you
Yeah.
can migrate those assets and they're somehow super valuable, like RuneScape Party has, you know, like you can get them
Exactly what
anyway.
I was about to say. Like legacy
Yeah.
items that mint new items in the new game if you have them from the old game, and it adds value to these assets. And I see a lot of that with NFT projects right now with their airdrops, trying to create value out of things that otherwise would have no value by promising future value. It's like it's the whole game theory about how do you. It's no different than play to earn. I think it's once again a social experiment, but it's exciting. And I think DeFi 2.0 is going to lend to that because of the mechanisms that we'll learn through DeFi 2.0. I think, finances and a digital ecosystem within play to earn gaming, it will cross over at some point.
I am sorry that I took us so far off the DeFi 2.0 track, but I always do want to always talk about GameFi at the same time as DeFi just because it's something that's very interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree. And the creativity behind the financial system with DeFi 2.0, I think the same mindset lends to GameFi and what's going on with play to earn gaming. It's no different. It's a social experiment within financial ecosystems and gaining assets. It's all related.
And it's like, I'm very excited about this Oasis privatized data system because I'm excited to see what kind of games you can build on top of that, right? Like, it's almost clear to me all of the DeFi applications because identity becomes a critical part of DeFi. And with privatized data, you can do privatized identity. Like, all of that to me is like very clear. And when we talk about GameFi, I'm kind of very curious about what that will enable with privatized data. So, like, Oasis games are going to hit different.
Yeah, they're going to hit very different. And one of the things that I'm excited about, and I know we're working with Jump on this actually, is something revolving around pants and gambling, which is something that I've been loud about this for years, that I believe our platform is designed to essentially solve trustless casinos and gambling systems that for as long as they've been invented have plagued gambling. I mean, cheating and gambling is it goes hand in hand. It's just risk reward mentality behind, I'm going to risk this and I want rewards. So creating a trustless environment where we can truly unlock potential of gaming in the biggest fashion there is, which is risk reward gambling. I'm really excited about it. I don't see any other blockchains offering the same solutions that we offer in a computer science way. Like the technology itself that we are providing offers the first environment for this type of integration. It's really exciting.
Yeah, and like another thing that is really cool is like I'm just imagining like having in-game items, you know, and I own this item, and if I can write a message there, and you know, whenever I sell it to somebody else, it can have like a track record of a history of who owned it, what's a message. You can even like pass messages between people like just by trading these items.
Yeah, I know it's such a good feature, and we were gonna put it into the AI rows. Remember, like the dossier, but it's such a good feature it needs privacy, and that's gonna be, yeah. Because if you have it public, you can a little bit of a messaging issue.
Yeah, the data becomes, you know, worthless at that point. It's public.
Yeah, exactly. But with privacy, absolutely. I mean, confidential NFTs, all this, and privacy is going to be incredible. The assets themselves, like you're saying, within games, having unique treasure troves or data vaults that add, maybe instructions on how to do certain things in the games or hacks, or it's really neat.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
What are some ideas we could wrap up, but I want to talk about, I mean, we've been talking about ideas left and right here for different hackathon projects, but this is why we're here, the hackathon. We're here for some project ideas. We should wrap up with some actual project ideas to help these guys out.
Yeah, and if there is there anybody in the audience maybe with any questions or ideas about projects?
Yes, we'd love some involvement. Oh, I think I see a hand.
Yeah, we see a hand.
Come on down.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
Hello,
Thanks for
hello.
joining us.
Thank you for having me. I guess my one question, kind of this talk. I follow this I guess this protocol, the proof of attendance protocol POAP. So I was wondering. I guess I try to follow the Oasis community garden or the ecosystem as best as I can. But I was just wondering if you guys have seen or if anyone has seen kind of POAP integrations with any of the events or activities or I guess apps that have been built on within Rose or within Oasis, or if that's something that can be, or if there are, I guess, opportunities there with the hackathon as well itself.
I might myself.
Take this one?
Yeah, I'm actually not I'm not that familiar with the proof of attendance. Do you know anything about it, John or Dev?
Yeah, POAPs are just NFTs that you give out, kind of like a credential, but they're just NFTs for attending attending an event. So, for example, you could issue a POAP to everyone that came to the audience today here as an NFT and just say, hey, you were in attendance for the DeFi 2.0 talk.
Yeah, that was my shameful plug to start obtaining some POAPs through the Oasis community. But
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I
that's
like
part
that.
of that.
We actually do that, but we do it in the opposite fashion. We gave away. Do you know Professor Song, Dr. Song? She was part of the DeFi MOOC. It was like a huge initiative. It was an online course that she put on with several other universities, Stanford, other leaders in the space to try and promote a DeFi education learning program. And she put on every week. They did assignments, and it was really amazing that she volunteered to do this. They gave away a completion certification NFT. So it's like not for attendance, but for completion, which I thought was really cool. So it's like the other end of what you're saying. But I love what you're saying too, because do that participation medals for marathons and all different types of things to say that you were at something.
Right.
We could use that for something like a conference or an Oasis event where it's like it's really nice that you came. NFTs for participating. It's almost like a badge of honor that you were at something.
Exactly,
I think that's really
badging.
fun. Yeah, but it wouldn't work until you have non-transferable NFTs, because then you could sell it and someone could pretend like they went somewhere.
That is a good point. There is currently, for some of the POAPs that are being issued, there is a marketplace even on OpenSea for some of them. So I haven't gotten into kind of the minutia of how exactly that works, but
Yeah, and then you can just see at the transaction that it was traded, and then you
Right.
know that it potentially wasn't that person. But it just kind of adds a layer of reality towards that.
Exactly.
But this is where credentials on a privatized blockchain would come into play. Instead of an NFT, if you use verifiable credentials, shameless plug for decentralized
Right.
identity, you can have a private, you can have a signed piece of data held by the user, and then they can't trade it. A verifiable credential is not an NFT; it's not a tradable piece of document.
Very nice.
There's
guys.
also, yeah, that's pretty good. There's also, I know that there's that protocol as well. They recently, and I still need to look into it, but they basically have stood up an app. I think it's Git POAP. So it is, I guess conceptually, it is you basically create a resume, so to speak, through GitHub, where it's like your resume is represented by maybe, again, to Spaceman Dev's point, you basically can curate a resume of work that you're doing. I guess integrating GitHub and any protocols you're interacting with.
Yeah, and I think actually somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but we're issuing those these proof of completions to the hackathon participants, I think, right? I think we're giving an NFT to everybody who completes the makes a completed submission on their project. So maybe this as a just as an idea. Yeah, so if somebody wants to participate and generate their own set to give to everybody who successfully participated in this hackathon that we're running now, and it's open until the beginning of May. Like, here's a hackathon idea.
Yeah, that is a good hackathon idea.
Yeah. And it's otherwise it's also really cool because we also, we have Jump as a sponsor, aside of NGC, Newman and Hashed and many others. And there's like a 200K prize pool. You know, this is something that would definitely fit there nicely. So, it can be a cool experience. It can kickstart the project itself and, get some, if you win, it's a good reward as well.
Very cool.
I will take that and run with it.
Thanks for coming down. Appreciate your question.
Thank
Is there anybody else? I know that we're at time. I want to respect Dev's time, Ekin's time. If we don't have any other questions, we can do a wrap up and thank everybody for coming. We got through most of our topics very well, very efficiently. Tips on good projects, our future view of DeFi, what's the difference between 1.0 and 2.0, and thank you very much for bringing up that article because it gave us that very blunt graph that we could just tell you the differences of project ideas, innovative trends, which we really discussed. So yeah, thank you so much. I think we should probably just wrap it up. We'll talk about, once again, Fountain Protocol, RoseArt, UserSwap. Thank you so much for those. And the Oasis Bloom Hackathon, which is why we're all here. So thank you to our sponsors, Jump Capital, NGC, Newman, Hashed, Dragonfly. Thank you very much. Dev, for joining us from Jump Capital. We really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you to everyone who attended. We really appreciate you. Have a great day.
Bye.